Okay, so welcome everyone to the Midcycle 2. Well, technically it's Midcycle 1 because we didn't have the first one. Uh, but yeah, so welcome to the Bobcat Midcycle. It is a 2-hour meeting, and since we had less amount of topics, so we also combined it with the Festival of Access reviews. We will see what all review patches were added, but the main focus I think will be mostly on the OS brick patches because we have a release tomorrow, and also the features for which the release is next week. So yeah, a lot of upcoming deadlines. So yeah, just a reminder, like please add your names to the attendees list. In the meantime, I will start with the announcements. Okay. So first one is the team list for Caracal, which is 2024.1 release. So there was a form which we had to sign up. Mostly, I think PTL signed it up. So everyone who registered their teams, it's listed in this email thread. I think the usual teams like Nova, Glance, Cinder, everyone is up there. And yeah, you can take a look which all teams registered for it. I mean, they're going to have a PTG during the October time. And the schedule also got merged for Caracal. I will also propose a patch to add the Cinder specific deadlines for it. But the general schedule for the next cycle is up. I've added these links in the announcements, so you can check it out. Moving on, we have the Pi 311 testing. So Ghanshyam wrote an email that we are going to keep Pi 311 as a runtime, as a voting runtime for gate jobs in the next release. So this release, it was kept as non-voting. And as I checked in the Cinder gate, it has been failing. And yeah, I couldn't see it pass in the build history. It says retry limit reached or retrying, but I didn't take a look like why it would be failing. But for Cinder, it is concerning that we don't have the 311 job working as of now. So we need to fix that. I was also checking OS Brick, but there the job isn't running. So maybe there is something wrong with the template. I need to check that. But we need to have Python 3.11 running in all projects, like at least the gate job as non-voting this cycle. And we can focus on fixing them. Yeah. So if you're interested, please take a look at the past build history. I've pasted a link there. And yeah,
I've got a patch up that fixes the Pi 311. So what was going on is we had our own job in Cinderlib and in Cinder that used Jammy, and everything worked fine. The OpenStack template job uses Debian Bookworm, and the justification for that was that apparently it's a release candidate of 311 in Jammy, whereas Debian Bookworm is using the actual Python 311 official release. But you need some binary dependencies because some stuff's named weirdly. So that's what that patch does that I added on line 53, unless I put it in the wrong Etherpad. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
So that fixes it. So I think what that patch does is it takes out our custom job, and then I think everything works fine. And then somebody can pick that up and do it for all the other Cinder projects.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good to know. At least we have a fix, which is currently failing. Okay, it's on some other thing. The 311 job is passing. Okay, great.
Of course, something's failing.
Yeah, that also we are going to discuss later today. But yeah, thanks, Plan, for fixing this. Uh, okay, on to the next announcement. So basically, we have some upcoming deadlines, as I stated. Like for non-client libraries, it's 24 August, which is tomorrow. So in the Festival of Access reviews, like I have mentioned, Etherpad, where there are some patches, OSBlick patches, that we can get them merged. And if there are any other patches that you would like to get into this release, then surely add that to the Etherpad. But yeah, that's the upcoming release. I think they allow one extra day for us. Like usually they allow the release to happen till Friday, but yeah, we shouldn't rely too much on that and should get everything in by today. Uh, Next is the feature freeze, which is milestone 3. And along with that, we also have the Cinder client and also the Brick Cinder client ext. But there is not much activity in that project since a long time. So I will just consider Cinder client to be the main project where we need changes to be merged if you want to get them into this cycle. So yeah, these are the two upcoming deadlines. Then yeah. So last announcement for today is the health check. So uh, the release team PTL, I think Elord, proposed patches for health check in a lot of branches. And his email thread also mentions Cinder. So I checked it out and the gate was failing on Cinder client and Brick Cinder client ext. I think it was some, let me quickly check. It was some Tempest job, I think. No, it's the functional Pi 39 job. And I checked the error. It says like could not find identity version. And I thought like it was a random failure. But in one of the patches, he has also rechecked it and the same error occurs. So seems like something has changed. Even I noticed Pranali from Glanstream was trying to set up a DevStack. She mentions this error, like she faced this. And I think something has changed in DevStack that might be causing this. It is the global venv. There is a variable that installs everything in the OPT stack data venv path and then creates a symlink into the user local lib bin path. So it worked fine for my DevStack installation, but for her it was failing. I think it might be related to this. And Abhishek also mentioned like some of the glance jobs were failing and he set it to false and then everything started passing. So I will try to do the same for this. But yeah, I wasn't sure, like, do we actually install DevStack in these jobs or is it just installing talks and
Well, for the Cinder client, we do install DevStack. I'm pretty sure. So that's why that's hitting this. Yeah, Abhishek had to patch up that just sets it. I don't know what the global environment does or why Jen's messed with it, but okay.
yeah, sorry, I was just trying to find that patch that adds it. But I think there are a lot of changes in DevStack made to revert it for some cases or like setting it to false for CentOS and some jobs. So a lot of patches in DevStack related to it. Yeah. I think we can try the same for our issue and see if it works.
Actually, the patch after that reverts this change, I think. So I think Dan figured out what's going on here.
Oh,
At least for glance. I don't know that this would affect us. There's this really weird thing. When you do the glance import, it runs some tasks, and those need access to the Python interpreter. But if you're running under the Whiskey thing, you don't really have access to Python. You just have access to like this thing that's running in Whiskey. And so that all the tasks fail. So, but I don't know why that would. I don't know. We'll have to look. So I don't know why we're seeing the same failure.
yeah, I also haven't dug up into this, just saw references of this being reported. So okay, we can try the same thing as glance and see if it fixes our gate. Okay, that's all the announcement I could find on OpenStack Discuss. So anything else that we should be aware of and I missed it out?
The change for changing extended maintenance to unmaintained merged yesterday. So the next thing, there's a patch up that's supposed to explain what the transition is going to be, but that has not been. Well, I haven't looked at it, so it may be great or it may have some problems. I'm not sure. There were Dimitri had a bunch of questions on the original patch, and Christy just said we'll deal with them in the next one. So I think we may be at least a week away from knowing what's going to happen. So, but the general thing for us is we can basically do whatever we want. So we could let the three. So there'll be 3 branches. I guess this will happen when we do the next release. So the 3 most recent stable branches will become unmaintained branches. No, that's not right. It'd be the old. I think it's the 3 oldest past. The 3 that are releasable. Well, let's not worry about it. So it's either we can either kill them off if we want, or we can just leave them as unmaintained, and everybody will know they're unmaintained. And then if people want to collaborate on them, they can by volunteering to become the unmaintained branch liaison or something. So I think everybody, the concerning thing for us was we were worried that people might try to use those branches and they don't have the fix in for the last CVE we were working on. But everybody's gotten the message that those branches don't contain that fix. So I think even if we don't delete them immediately, we're okay. So I think we got other stuff we need to worry about for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see what happens.
So they are going to change the state, like from stable train to unmaintained train. So they are going to transition this in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's the theory. It may take slightly longer because I don't know that you can. I'm not sure what the limitations are on like changing the name of the branch. Somebody had mentioned at one point they were going to have to tag and then recreate the branch under the new name. I'm not sure whether it's a tooling thing or a Git thing. Because in Git, you can rename branches. So it may just be I don't know. So that really needs to be worked out. So the idea of what they want done is kind of clear, but exactly how it's going to happen is still being worked out. So.
Okay. And is there a requirement from the project teams, like apart from like giving volunteer names for the unmaintained core team, which
Right. So that's, yeah, there's, I don't, they never, well, so that's why there's still some open questions. It hasn't been worked out exactly how that's supposed to work. So they want it to be extremely lightweight. So it shouldn't be a duty of the PTL to have to worry about this. But if nobody steps in to maintain it, then the PTL can just say we want to close these off. So you will have a something to do there, but probably I don't know whether they're going to send out a OpenStack wide thing or I'll give you an update at the next meeting, because the other thing is it's not real obvious that it makes sense to have an unmaintained team for each project, because most likely, right, if somebody wants to maintain Wallaby, for example, they'll want to do Nova and Glance and Cinder and possibly a few other things. So it wouldn't really make, anyway. So either we'd have to have like 5 teams, or it might make more sense to just have one team. So that's still being worked out.
And we can always postpone looking into it. I mean, for us, it's like, as long as nobody is asking for it, we can just ignore it for a while.
Yeah, and they'll start to. So there's like a not a timeout, but there's supposed to be, right, with each release, automatically the oldest one will get killed off unless the project opts in to keep it. So it's going to be an opt-in model. So at least we won't be piling up this enormous string of unmaintained branches. So once we get past the current stable releasable ones and get into the slurp ones, there'll just always be one, by default, one unmaintained branch, and it'll be the last slurp release. So, and then if a project wants to keep more around, they can opt in.
okay. Yeah, I just want to know, because I think we were the ones initiated this discussion, and
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I've sort of backed off from, because I think our primary concern was just making sure that it was clear that we were not responsible for anybody using unfixed code out of our branches, and so everybody's clear on that. So
yeah, I think it was, we don't want to spend time maintaining those.
Right.
And because we don't want to spend time, we want people to be aware that we are not looking out. If the branch is not deleted, we are not looking out for it. We are not keeping it maintained. We are not doing anything. So
yeah. So I think, so we merged those changes to the README to say that explicitly. And then also, I think the general discussion, I think operators are clear on the status now. So I think we're okay, at least morally. And then under the new guidelines, they'll be explicitly called unmaintained branches. And the idea is that the project teams have no responsibility for what's going on in there. So we'll see how that works out, but that's the idea.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really good. And thanks, Brian, for following up on this. So yeah, I guess we are good on this. And that's all the announcements we had. I guess we can move to topics now. So the first one topic, I think it was Brian that pointed this out, that we had a lot of failures in our these. I think it was around LVM jobs, but we also noticed like the TGT job hasn't passed since a long time, and it was non-voting. And even in the comment section, we mentioned like we are going to remove this job in Antelope Cycle, which we didn't pay attention to at that time. So now we can at least see if this job is needed or not. Like it's the LVM TGT Barbican job. So yeah, basically the background is like we upgraded our distros to Jammy, which is Ubuntu 22.04, and this job wasn't working. I'm not sure for which reason, but it wasn't functional on that distro. So no point in keeping it if it doesn't pass. Yeah, would like to know team's thought about it.
Hi, Saron here, and yeah, I'm little new to this process, and this one just joined 2 3 weeks back. So we expect customers to use Ubuntu 22, right, for OpenStack, and maybe now we are disabling this automation. That's fine, but if those customers face problem, right? So you want to track them via bugs. That's how we'll attack this. If you delete it now.
So this particular case, we are talking about like gate jobs that run on the Gerrit patches that we propose. So there is a job which uses TGT as a Cinder target with LVM, and that job has been broken for quite a long time, and it was broken on Jammy. Again, I don't know for what reasons it was exactly broken, but we were just discussing about removing that. I think it's not very
Okay,
much related to customers using Jammy. Like I think the installation
okay,
works
okay,
fine with that.
okay. Then fine. Okay.
Yeah. So if there are no concerns on this, then either me or Brian can propose a patch to. I think Brian, you added that comment, right? Like.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, I got to admit I didn't quite understand exactly what the issue is, but I think we prefer a different right helper for the targets. So
Yep, we
do we want
prefer LIO.
right? So I guess so. The question was, do we want to? I don't know that. So that's our preference. What I'm trying
By
to say.
who is our Red Hat? You
Oh,
and me, you, me, and
just-
Rayat.
No, I just mean Cinder project. So with the Cinder project, well, so here's the thing. So we know that LIO helper works. So the question is, do we want to stop testing TGT, or do we want to just say that we've removed support for it in favor of LIO?
I personally wouldn't say that we don't support it. I mean, we haven't had bugs in TGT for a very, very long time, so it's not like it's broken or anything like that. But I believe, well, LIO these days is probably easier to install and to run with. And for example, for Red Hat platforms, that's the one to use.
Right.
So, and I don't know how many production environments are actually running with LVM.
Right. Well, that's true.
Too
We
much
don't
about
recommend that.
TDD.
Yeah.
Well, we say if you're using LVM, there are all these downsides. So be careful with what you do with that.
Right.
All that. So I don't know if it's worth taking up time to fix gate, keeping up additional gates for TGT and LIO for that specific use case. Because the use case we want to cover is iSCSI, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't really care about TGT or LIO. It's Osprey works, LVM works, then it's fine.
Okay. So I guess I wonder. All right. So I think let's just go ahead and remove this job because nobody seems to have missed it. And it hasn't been, as far as I can tell, it hasn't passed in like 3 years. So I guess we could send something to the mailing list just saying, this job's remained unfixed. We're removing it. And if anyone is interested in having this tested, they could feel free to, they could try it with Debian Bookworm or something. I don't know if it would work or not.
Or they can contact us. You can say it has been, the gate has been broken, but we haven't had bugs for a very, very long time. And we are testing most things with LIO, blah, blah, yada, yada. If you really, really are using this in production, please
let us
know.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds really useful. But yeah, someone should have noticed it by now. But again, yeah, it's good to always send something on the mailing list. I just checked like the last failed gate run, and it had like 160 test failure. Maybe they all are related to the same issue. But yeah, it seems heavily broken at this point.
I just hope it didn't get broken when we switched to Python 3 and we haven't noticed till now.
That's possible.
But we made it non-voting recently, right? Or I don't know when we did that.
I guess if you've got that open, you could do a blame and see when we put the. It had been like maybe 6 months broken before I put that comment in.
Yeah, it was switched to non-voting 8 months ago. So before that, I think it was passing. So Python 3 was train. So I think at least it works with Python 3, just not with the latest Ubuntu.
Thanks. That sounds better than what I was imagining.
Yeah. So also we had a problem with some target in a multi-node deployment where the same LUN was being used. I don't remember exactly, but I don't know if it was TGT or LIO that passes the same LUN number in a multi-node deployment. I think it was causing some conflict with that. Yeah, I don't remember the exact details.
I think TGT and LIO should have, if there is a problem around that, probably it has the same problem, because they both force LAN number 0 or LAN number 1. I don't remember, probably 0.
It's 0.
And that's because they use the non-target share, so they have a specific name for each volume and they share it, so they can just use the same LAN. And it should not, in my head, it shouldn't create any problems even when you do multi-node, because you have different addresses. Even if the name of the volume is the same and the LAN is the same, it shouldn't matter. They have different portals. One node will have one IP address, the other a different IP address, so they are different. I think there should be no conflict, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, like I also don't remember the exact details, but as you said, like it shouldn't, because in every different host, LAN 0 should work fine. Yeah, I don't remember the problem, but I thought it was somehow related to TGT. So, okay, I think this proposal sounds good. Okay, we have a resolution for this, and we can move to the next topic, which is related to the, again, upstream gate jobs issue. So in the last meeting, or in the last couple of meetings, Brian and Eric has pointed out a lot of different issues that we are facing with our gate jobs. There are different timeouts, different out of memory exceptions, and Luigi did propose 2 patches. One with, so we agreed to reduce the concurrency of Tempest. Like I think by default it is 6, so we reduced it to 3, and another patch was proposed to make it 4. But in both of them, I can still see the gate jobs failing. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, Luigi also says similar thing. So yeah, last I checked, like they were still failing on some gate jobs. So this was one of the resolutions we came up with. Another one was to increase the swap space, because I think initially it was 8 gigabytes and then it was later changed to 1 gigabyte. And that might be a reason for out of memory exceptions, because we have so much less swap space, even with some environments that might have less amount of RAM. So
if I remember correctly, Dan wrote kind of some code or something to damp the memory usage by service at some point, so that we can try to investigate which service had an unreasonable amount of memory usage. And but maybe I'm wrong. I think
No, I think there's like a performance.json that gets written with the test results that's got that information in it. And yeah, we
do
show
we
up.
know who is going crazy with memory?
The last time you're not going to like this. The last time I looked, it was Cinder backup was just enormous again. But it could just be because it was, I don't know.
Well, it could be because it's running, is doing, there are multiple reasons. If it's Ceph is different than the rest, but if it's the rest, could be that they are checking the memory when Cinder backup is still doing things. That could be one. So if you don't wait until it has completed, it could actually be doing operations and using memory. That's reasonable. If not, it could be that somehow the memory changes. It's, I think, a comment that I added into the Etherpad is if we have checked that the memory environmental variables that I set in DevStack and in TripleO, if they are being applied. Because those fix a bunch of problems. like good number of memory. By problems, I mean memory issues, like
Right.
the high watermark, the classic high watermark issue when you consume up to you're processing things, you go and you consume 4 gigabytes of RAM, you stop doing anything, you finish, and you keep having the 4 gigabytes allocated. That one got fixed with that. And then it also reduced the peak memory usage. But I don't know if somebody changed things in DevStack or if we are deploying differently and now it doesn't apply. Because, yeah, Cinder backup during use, it's going to consume a lot unless we change the configuration parameters of Cinder backup. We can reduce the concurrency, we can reduce the chunk size, which for testing is probably the best thing to do. We don't care as much as the incremental detection. As like, yes, we can set parameters so that we minimize the amount of RAM being used for any create or restore operation. And that should be good enough, I think. So maybe that's a way to ensure that Cinder backup is not the problem.
I think the default concurrency is 15.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, but
I mean, a lot for a DevStack toy environment.
Yeah, right.
So we might need a new DevStack variable to set it in Cinder. Yes, Luigi.
So yeah, sorry, just wanted to say that from looking at the result of the jobs, even though they weren't very successful, it seems like the one with concurrency tree reduced the issues on most of the jobs. The only offenders to this point is the multi-attach one, which seems to be the most problematic one. Yeah, and that's it. So I'm still convinced that reducing the concurrency, as you also mentioned, is the way. And feel free to take my patch or adapt it or extend it with additional changes to improve the usage of the resources.
All right, thanks. So you recommend sticking with the concurrency 3?
This is weird. How can our Cinder API service consume more memory than Cinder backup? Like twice.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're.
We need to reduce the number of processes for Cinder API on the gate, definitely. That's crazy. And for the record, we are not that bad in terms of memory. Cinder backup, I'm looking at the concurrency setting of blah, blah, blah. One of the reduction patches, and I'm seeing that Cinder backup is, I don't know, 20% more than Nova Scheduler, more in terms of memory consumption. I don't think that's crazy or anything.
No, that seems kind of reasonable because it's going to gather a lot of data before it pushes it out.
And we consume less that OVN metadata agent. So, I don't know. Well, we can do our best, and just make those reductions in the number of concurrency backups, reduce the number of these chunks for backups, and that ensures that the backup service, at least during usage, is also consuming less memory. And for the record, Nova CPU is using 10 times the memory of our Cinder backups. So nope, we are not the problem. But yeah, I would go with like Luis did reduce the concurrency on the request, and then we can tweak a little bit at Cinder backend as well.
Do we know how many? So I think with process you mean like the workers, like we have the main API process and workers under it as child.
For API, I believe the gate now runs maybe under Apache. So Apache will create different process, a number of processes for your API. So I don't know if it creates 4, 8. I don't know. Maybe the default is 1 per processor, and that's too much. I mean, for our test, 1 or 2 APIs should be more. Processes should be enough, I think. And I don't know. We probably would need to check DevStack and see how many does it run. Or I don't know if in the logs we have PS or something run to check what do we have. The processes. Do we have any, like the performance? Do we have anything that give us the processes that are there? Well, I don't think maybe we should spend more time on this probably. We just need to look at probably these things. The one Luigi explored, and that seems to fix a lot of the problems, and maybe just tweak our backup service, maybe the API, and that's probably the best we can do from our side. I mean, looking at the memory consumption at the end, I believe the Cinder backup is using the memory changes that I introduced. Otherwise, it would be similar to Nova or even higher.
And that change got merged maybe 2 cycles ago. So we should be seeing good effects on.
And I think I even backported it
Mhm.
because it was trivial changes. But maybe I didn't backport it because it was DevStack change in the end. It was DevStack. It was an installer thing. It's not something that we can change in our service. It needs to be set up before because it affects the interpreter itself. And because the interpreter loads before our process, well, our code, it has to be done by the deployment tool.
So did we make those changes in Triple or was it in DevStack?
Both. Because one of the problems we had before this, and that both Dan and myself noticed, is that the memory consumption of Cinder backup was crazy. And it was actually getting out of memory killed the process in some jobs. You would see it. And so I did it in both places. In DevStack for the gate and in Triple for deployments. And I believe I either mentioned it to Cola or I don't know if I changed it there or just said, hey, somebody should do that. I don't remember.
Okay. maybe we can check that if those are still taking effect into the gate jobs. And yeah, I think we have a lot of useful points from this discussion that we can follow up on. I will just write down an action item.
Nova API is consuming like 3 times with the Cinder backup, the amount of memory. Nova API is consuming basically like all our Cinder services together. I don't know, it's weird.
It's understandable for n CPU, but for an API, like it doesn't make sense.
We are looking at this, we are not the offenders here. Nova and Neutron should look at what they are doing, because Neutron is also like 4 times more than Cinder backup. So we can do those improvements that we have discussed to try to tighten what we consume. But I don't think we are the big problem right now. Unless the problem comes from when Cinder backup is at its peak, doing 2 or 3 backups concurrently, then we could be the problem. But we can fix that with the chunk size.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So the chunk size should. So the only thing we'll have to watch for is things will take longer, but we can make adjustments for that if that's seems. If we can start seeing failures for timeouts, we could just increase those. All right. The other thing, I was talking to Dan yesterday, and he had mentioned another thing that they did. So this may be something for the Cinder Tempest plugin. He said S-Tester is kind of stupid about the way it breaks things up, and it just sort of makes a big list of all the tests and then distributes them alphabetically. So he made some changes in Tempest to group different tests into different classes so that they'd be, instead of having one big class with a bunch of tests, you would have smaller classes with to move the I think the idea was to move the tests that were very time intensive to different classes so that they all wouldn't be in the same class. So I don't know if that's something we need to worry about. But I just wanted to mention it because the tests that we tend to put into the Cinder Tempest plugin tend to be like, I think, tests that do a whole scenario that could take a long time, because we're interested in, restores and backups and going into the, spawning an instance and then going in, writing something in the volume and then going to check the volume.
My concern is the changes he made was in Tempest itself, right? Not anywhere else. Okay, good.
Right.
Because a while back I had to fix Ntester because they messed up the generation of the test order, in you could no longer reproduce spurious tests using the subunit file.
Ooh.
Because the idea is you run your test, and if something happens, you should be able to run the exact same test in the same order. But they messed it up, and you could no longer do it. So what I used to do is when I found in the gate a weird unit test failing, I got the subunit, I see which worker is running it, filter with the tools, the command line tools, the subunit, get the list and tell tester, run following this list. And it would always fail in the same way that it did in the gate, but they mess it up the order. Within the tool, they stop preserving the order as they should. So if it's in Tempest, it's fine. I was scared that he went and changed something in N-Tester and broke it again. But no, okay, good. And for Cinder, we could split it as well, because our scenarios, as far as I remember, we try to make them independent. So even if they are within the same class, they don't depend on the previous one to have run. Otherwise, if we depended on that, that would be bad, because you would get failures in cascade. One fails, everything that depends on that one fails as well. So I'm okay with the splitting things.
I also remember Dan proposed a fix to change some MySQL things, some values, and if there was a variable that we need to set in our gate job to test it. I think there was a patch. I think Brian added a comment somewhere like we can just change this and this would enable it, but not sure if we are tested with that.
I haven't made any changes, and I don't even remember which tests those were, but I do remember putting the comments in, so we should be able to grep and find them. But I don't think we've monkeyed with the MySQL settings.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking if that could also help with all the other things that we have discussed.
Yeah, I think that's what I think it was Gorka put a comment in line 90. So I don't think we're running with those yet.
I think Gorka's comment was about like the backup changes, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think we've taken advantage of those. Although maybe we have. I'll have to go look.
I can still see that commented out, so I will just mention it in the Etherpad.
Okay. And then if anyone's interested in helping out in this, I put this, there's a tool at line 85. So OpenStack has sort of farmed out the Elasticsearch. We used to have, I forget what we had. We had some kind of ELK stack that you could use to look at the CI jobs. So that's been replaced by this other thing, OpenSearch. If you take that link, this thing creates ridiculous URLs. So I can't paste one that's got a job already in it. But if you go there, it's going to ask for a username and password, and it's OpenStack for both of them. And then you'll have access to this thing. And then if you look, so then at the top there'll be a there's like a little search bar. If you type in so the build name, and then for this one I've just got the message for OOM killer. There's some things, this tool apparently isn't real flexible, so you can't use regexes to search, at least not in this interface. So with this, so the build name is just one of our jobs, And then message is basically the whole set of logs, all of them. So you can just search in there for some particular thing. But if you don't have the exact string you want, it'll either get nothing or it'll get a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't, that matches, but that you don't want. And then the other thing about this is it only keeps about 14 days of data. So if you look at like the last 30 days, it always looks like suddenly a bunch of problems just started happening. But that's only because the data starts about 14 days out. But this might give us a way to, try to find some regularities in the failures we're seeing. So.
Good to know about this. I'm still trying to figure things out, but I will test this out after maybe tomorrow. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just good to be aware of it. And if anybody has time to help out, that would be good. Like with these OOM things, for a while it was mostly MySQL getting killed, but I see a lot of these QEMU system ones. Anyway, just tossing it out there.
Okay, so probably we'll follow up with all these things that we have discussed. And the next topic, I think, yeah, Brian, you added it for the user survey questions. I still haven't taken a look at it, but yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, we could just look. I think, because to be honest, I haven't taken a good look at this either. It looked like the only question we've got on here. Shoot, I'm having trouble navigating this.
So
I think you have to go to page 2. And then so we ask for how much usable block storage at row 9 on page 2. And then I think we have supervisor. Yeah, so we ask what drive. I don't know. I lost the it's row 27. I can't even see it because it's.
I don't see the question. I don't know why.
It's
scroller. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to. It's not a good interface for this. So the question is just which OpenStack block storage Cinder drivers are you using? And then I don't think we have whoops. I didn't see. So probably the ones we added this cycle aren't in there. I don't think Yadro's in there. No, it is. Okay, Yadlin is in there.
So we had the iSCSI driver, but this cycle emerged the fiber channel one.
Okay, so we should probably add that. And then I don't think we've removed anything recently. So I guess what I could do is just update this from the support matrix. So I'll take an action item to do that, and then I'll just send it into Allison.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not sure if we should mention, like, if anyone might be using the Ceph iSCSI driver, because we haven't even made the official release for its client, I think, as of now. So, yeah. But yeah, I think if people are not using it, they won't mention it. But we can, surely the support metrics should be a good point of getting the details.
I think that was all we asked. We've got the project feedback question online on row 43. If there's one thing you would like to see changed, added, removed, or fixed in Cinder, what would it be? Please be specific.
Did we, Brian, ask for a way to contact them back? You remember that every single time we have surveys, we want to reach out to them to either let them know, hey, there is an actual fix for what you want, or we don't understand, or is this what you mean? And we never have a way to do anything about those cases.
Yeah, let me see what the exact text is, because I can't even display it in this.
Because, we always feel bad about somebody saying, oh, fix backups. They're like, what part?
All right, so here's the full. I must have written this because this question is ridiculous. All right, Cinder, if there was one thing you would like to see changed, added, removed, fixed in Cinder, what would it be? ? Please be specific and give us some context for what you are talking about. For example, if you want better support for X, please elaborate. Does it have bugs? Is it a performance issue? More features should be added. What release are you using? Maybe we already fixed it or think we did. If you have filed a bug, please mention the bug number. Don't worry about repeating information that you already told us elsewhere in the survey. It's helpful to have it right here so we can focus on your request. I think we're not encouraged to ask for their email because these are supposed to be anonymized surveys. But what we could do is we could say in here that why don't you send something to the mailing list so we know to follow up. Or
well, I think I don't know if last time or the previous time, the PTL sent an email or generated a spreadsheet with the request and our answers to them. So maybe we have a way to say somewhere that we are going to be doing that if they have added anything, please go there afterwards to see our answers. And that they can, and then in that spreadsheet, we can say, if you want to add anything, please send an email to the mailing list or whatever. Some way to actually close the loop if they are interested. So it is anonymous, but they know that after it is completed, they can either go to a URL, go to a mailing list, whatever, see the results or at least our responses. And then if they want to continue the conversation, they can do something about it. Because I always feel really bad that people take the time to actually give us feedback, and we have no proper way to show them that we care and that we
Right.
actually want to understand their needs.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think we did something like that once. But maybe we can do that. So we should be getting the results for the 2023 survey is just closing, I think. So we should be getting the results for that. So what we could do is, at a Cinder meeting or something, go through the, responses and do what you suggest. Maybe do an Etherpad or a Google Doc or something with our responses, and then send something that mailing list telling people it's there and we would like to continue the conversation. They can give us more information, and we could do it that way.
And to allow for maybe the not to preserve anonymity, but maybe to not make it so clear that it's somebody replies to something, it is because they ask it.
Right.
We could say, even if you didn't ask, if you're interested in one of the replies or the topics or the requests, please let us know so we can also measure the interest, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Because maybe somebody says, oh, your service sucks. And then or backup is terrible, and we ask for more information and they feel bad about elaborating. Yep.
I think it was related to this also that we started having the operator hour in the PTG to have operator join the developers, and they can complain about the problems there as well. So we can do a live, get live feedback and just let them know. But I don't know if it was so in the last PTG, which is Bobcat. There was, I think, Christian was showed up, only one operator, and I think in the Vancouver one also there was a session, and I wasn't there. So Brian, if there was any operators,
Yeah, there was one guy who came about the it wasn't backups. It was about he hasn't followed up with us. It was about encryption. They wanted the ability to be able to change encryption keys on demand without having to, because now we do it. We change the encryption key if you clone a volume, but they also want the ability to be able to just change the encryption key on an existing volume without having to do that. And there was something about rolling keys. He was going to follow up because he said he thought the workaround was okay, but that there's some kind of security checklist for some kind of certification or something, that one of the things you need to be able to do is be able to just change the encryption keys on existing volumes. But he was supposed to follow up and give us more than just sort of a general description of doing it. We were interested in what exactly the certification thing he was looking at asked for, so that if we do design something, it's going to meet the use case. But anyway, so it was just one operator, and that was his concern.
Okay. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have. But yeah, I also understand like some people want to be anonymous and don't have enough time to attend these events. So
well, hopefully people start getting, once we start having in-person events again, people start getting into the cycle and know to go.
yeah, I don't know what's the idea regarding that as well. Like I thought after the Vancouver PTG, they will start having the main PTG event. They will start having that in person. But again, this one is virtual, and maybe they will plan a in person in between the two PTGs. So I really don't know what's the idea. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I should ask that at the TC. We should ask the foundation what their plans are, because the foundation plans the Open Infra Summits. Because it would be good, it would help with people's planning if they knew an event was coming up. Because I think with the problem with the one we just had was, since we'd already had the virtual PTG and planned a bunch of stuff, this one happened kind of late, so it didn't seem like it was an important thing to go to.
Yeah, from a PTG point of view, like all the planning for the cycle was already done, and the key people already attended the main PTG. So the event didn't have much topics. Like I remember the Etherpad that we created.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. Yeah. Good to know more about it from the foundation perspective. Okay, so that's all the topics we had, and we still have half an hour left for the reviews. But before that, maybe we can take a short break, maybe 5 minutes. If that sounds good to everyone.
Yeah,
Sounds
good.
Okay, great. I will see you everyone in 5 minutes. I will stop the recording as well.
All right. See you in 5.